So, hello there. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're joining us now, the audience, you're very welcome. Or if you do watch the replay after this and you'd like to ask a question or reach out to us, then please do so in the chat or comments below on your LinkedIn or your YouTube, and we'll pick it up during or after the live when we can. So, just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm Joyce, Marketing Tech. So, we're a homegrown, affordable mobile app agency for SMEs, providing an affordable one stop shop for all your appy needs. So we don't just build your app, we also help you take it to market as well. So that's enough about me. Today, I'm really delighted to have Tim Rothwell of Appkazoo join us. So, a bit about Tim. Tim has over 30 years of experience in software development and mainly in the financial services sector. And back in 2017, Tim created Appkazoo to design, build, and deliver mobile apps for smaller businesses. Appkazoo also builds websites and provides other digital services for small businesses as well. So, Tim is here today to tell us about an app project that's close to his heart, which is called the Chelmsford Guide. Now, this is a community app for the local community and also businesses in Chelmsford as well. And with support from local businesses and sponsorship, as I understand, from a well known brand in Chelmsford, the community app is self sustaining through local advertising. And that's a hugely successful community app business model. So, Tim, hi there.
Hi Joyce, thanks for the welcome.
That's all
How are
right.
you?
Really good to have you. I'm well, thank you. A little bit cold, but
It's
still
cold, isn't it?
hanging
You're
in
right.
there. Yes, the heating's blasting at me from my right hand side. So
Yeah,
so before we go ahead and to for me to ask you some questions, Tim, and for you to take us through the app, I just wanted to highlight to our audience here today, who's watching us, that if you're thinking of a way to support and engage with your local community wherever you are, and to find, if you want to find a way to allow local businesses to be able to promote themselves in a very cost effective way, then this LinkedIn Live is for you. Thank you. So over to you,
thank you.
Tim.
Yeah, so the kind of the idea of the app, I guess, going back a little while, it was my initial thoughts when we first set up the company is we have an area in Chelmsford called Old Motion, and that's the smallest area, and it's got Motion Traders Association, etc. And at the time, I thought about setting up something for them, so they'd be like a relatively small number of businesses in that local area. We actually happen to that used to live in that area, so but having looked at it, I felt we at the time we couldn't necessarily add a lot of value, as it were. We didn't have, I thought, the features that could really help them. So that kind of got put to one side, and then we went. I mean, everything's kind of pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic these days, isn't it? So
Hmm.
the pandemic hit, and you could see in the news obviously a lot of local businesses across the country, across the world, you could argue, were struggling because they were closing, they had to close for whatever reason, and they were reaching out to get digital technology to help them. So that started kind of reinvigorating my idea around how can we connect with local businesses in the area, and that grew, and the technology we had moved on from what we had previously, so now we could actually do more. Um, so that kind of German idea started building up, and eventually formed into the Chelmsford Guide. So instead of covering a relatively small area of Chelmsford, it was for the whole of the city. So yeah, it was basically an app that will allow people to a smaller business to have access to technology that maybe they wouldn't normally have access to, and then built within that, if you like, just have businesses within there, that might be a little bit um, difficult sell to people, as it were, in terms of people downloading and using the app. So we looked at what features we could put in there, what information and features we could put in there which would
Hmm.
make it more community based and more reason for using. So we'll probably touch on some of these things later, but
Yeah.
it was actually what features can we put in the app to make it richer, more engaging, more useful to people to use, and reasons for doing it, and for therefore attract people to it, and therefore it becomes attractive to businesses to be in the app as well. So there's
Hmm.
that kind of hopefully a virtuous circle between community and business. So that was
Hmm.
kind of the germ of it.
Okay, so was that in part spurred on by the pandemic, as you mentioned, that happened after the
Yeah, I
pandemic?
think
Is
so.
that
It
right?
was,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was launched. The kind of years rushed by a little bit. Don't they? So it was. I mean, we started, if you like, putting it together in, I guess, towards the end of 2020, and then it was sort of we
Mm,
put it in the App Store early
mm-hmm,
2021.
mm-hmm,
And so yeah, it's been in there since then. We've yeah, it's been through some iterations, as you know, being an app, being technology, you can change the layout and the design and the features,
mm-hmm.
etc., on a regular basis. That's what we've done. So it's kind of gone through some iterations. It's not stood
Yeah,
still.
yeah, based on
And we're trying
feedback
to, we
from,
always, and we're trying to come up with new ideas all the time about how we might improve it, etc. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's a moving thing. It doesn't stay the same.
Hmm. Okay, fantastic. So, what in your mind at the time? What would the app like to achieve? Considering that there would be obviously that there was a challenge to me. There's some challenges that you wanted to perhaps use the app to help mitigate. Could you talk us a bit through that?
Yeah, I think I don't know whether this is something that's. I hope this is true, but I think after the during the pandemic and the impact that had, and therefore people, we started thinking a little bit more locally. I think,
Hmm. Hmm.
and a bit more because we could see, if you like, those businesses, local businesses, and if you like, your neighbours, people you might see or not see, but they're your neighbours, and they run businesses and they've been impacted by it. So, so I think people were thinking a bit more like that. And what we wanted to do with, if you like, with the app was to think it, well, it isn't a generic app, as it were. It's not for any other in this form. It's not for any other city or town. It is for Chelmsford. It has Chelmsford businesses in there,
Hmm.
but it's creating that kind of connection between businesses and community, so charities and community groups, etc. So it's trying to create that kind of circle between connections between people. So by having, I mean, look, if someone's looking for a local business at the moment, they'll clearly go on Google and look for it. But to get yourself in the Google three pack means you have to compete with everyone else to get into that three pack. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
things you have to do to win that position within the app within Google. So within our app, it's not there's nothing like that. You are listed in there. It's based on location. So if you open the app and look for a plumber, for example, and you go into that category, you will find plumbers listed, not by any sort of smartness they've done in terms of
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
back end and making their website faster and all the
Yeah.
stuff you have to do for Google. It is literally done on location. So I think it's just a matter of finding local businesses literally as close to you as possible. Now, it doesn't mean you just have to pick the one nearest to you, but that might be something that you're interested in. So it
Hmm.
is just
Hmm.
trying to create that the ability for businesses to get in front of their
Hmm.
local community
Yeah.
in a very straightforward way. So it's not complicated.
And also, I think that you mentioned Google was, which is really interesting because it is a buy local trend, and since the
Mm.
pandemic, I have to mention pandemic again. I do apologize,
Yeah,
but since
yeah,
then, you can see the number of searches for buy local, support local have shot up
yeah.
since 2020, and so it's very much in line with the buy local trend, support local community trend. And also, you mentioned having to work hard to be in a local three pack listings, to be in the local searches. You have to do a lot of things, tweak a lot of things, get a lot of reviews to do that. But then the app serves a different purpose, doesn't it? It
Yes,
complements what you do on SEO. It's another channel. But also, if I may add, it gives you much richer results in an app, doesn't it? A business can choose to have so much information that's useful to the resident
absolutely.
on the app.
Yeah,
You can't do that
yeah,
on Google. Google doesn't allow
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I mean, if the business listings we have in the app, you can, I mean, you can put a lot of stuff in there. I mean, you can have information, you can embed videos, you can have links out to your Google reviews or whatever that sort of thing. So, yeah, and if you're in trusted trader, we could have your listing. So you can connect. your listing is in there and it can be very rich, but also you can
Mhm.
connect out to that outside world, which is important. I'm not saying, oh, I would never be stupid enough to suggest that this is any sort of local replacement for Google, but it's an
Mhm.
enhancement to that. It's another position that people can have, and that's what we're trying to achieve. But we, but again, what I emphasise is that
Mhm.
it's not just business. It's that business and, like I say, community and community information, etc., in there as well. That's all in a very
Yeah.
structured way and easy to
Mm.
find. So I don't know,
Mhm.
local schools even are all listed in there, and
Yeah.
all those sort of things are in there. And in fact, over a period of time, we've been trying to add more and more information there. It's a never-ending process, if I'm honest, but we're trying to bring as much local information into the app to make it as rich as possible.
That's amazing. One thing I really like about the app is the design. It's user friendly. It's colorful. It strikes me as a very friendly app to use and easy to access information as well. So, could you talk a bit about some of the features
Yeah,
that
sure. Yeah.
that you've designed, Tim? Or would you want me to
Do
call
you
up the
want to bring up the
slides?
slide?
Let me
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
let's do that, and then we can talk through what's actually in the app
Yeah.
itself.
It's the least complicated slide couple of slides you'll ever see, but it's
Okay.
really there to
Yep.
tell me, to remind me what we'll talk about. So, obviously, key
Sure.
features.
Yeah.
One of
Mhm.
the, I mean, the key one is the business system we just touched on, which is we list them based on category, etc. So if you're looking for beauty and pampering, whatever, you click on that, and there's a bunch. There'll be listings in there. So those are organised by categories, and that's, if you like, that's one of the, if you like, that was the original driving. That was the original idea, to get businesses into an app, listed in an app. And then, as I said, we started thinking about how can we make the app more useful for people. And so,
Mhm.
next thing we thought about was what's on feature. So events that are happening in the Chelmsford area. So
And they
this
can
year, for
actually book
example, we
tickets, can't they? It goes
yeah,
through a
yeah, yeah. You
ticket.
can, yeah.
Yeah.
So we organised it. I mean, we tried different mechanisms for organising it, but in the end, we've organised it based on venues, locations. So one of the
Mhm.
more famous venues in Chelmsford is Highlands House, and so we'd have a section for Highlands House, for example, and that will show the events in Highlands House. And this year, for example, we had the Chelmsford Festival. So we had a section that was entirely on the Chelmsford Festival, and then within that section, it had all the venues where the Chelmsford Festival events were taking
Mhm.
place. Same with the Fringe Festival we had this year. So there's a number of. I've got to say, it's a never-ending process keeping what's on feature going, because of course events eventually
Change
happen and
all the
then they drop
time.
off. They drop off, and we have to add some more.
Expire.
So
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you you get yourself in a position where you've got lots of activity in there, and then you realise that those have all happened, and you have to add some more. So it is a
Yeah.
never-ending
Yeah.
process. But
Mhm.
that was so that's a key feature as well. So it gives people, and as
Mhm.
you say, people can find out where the event, what events are happening, and they can buy tickets. Link out to where you can buy the tickets, etc.
Mhm.
And then community listeners, as we touched on as well, we got kind of sections on charities and community groups, etc. So they're all organised in there, youth groups, etc. So again, if you're looking to find a local charity, or you're looking to find a local group you might want to join in with, there's a few choirs in there, for example, listed. You do that. So and then fairly recently, we started reaching out or finding local companies that currently have their own online stores. Um,
Mhm.
they'll be selling wherever they're. I mean, most of them, you could argue, are selling for anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter, but they are local run businesses, and creative business. So we put some. Um, we've created a little kind of shop local section there, where we've got some Shopify stores that are linked in there. So it really is just a pass through to their stores, and you can find them. So it might be that on their Shopify store, it doesn't necessarily indicate they're based in Chelmsford, but I do know they are. So it's
Mhm.
just, again, giving somebody information. And there are an esoteric group of companies like and
Mhm.
I'm happy to find as many more as we can do. Um, and then one of the other ones we've got, I think, is really useful, is the radio stations. We've got 3 radio stations embedded in the app: Chelmsford
Mhm.
Community Radio, the Hospital Radio, and Chelmer Radio. So, and there's actually, I mean, Chelmsford is known as the home of radio, because Marconi set up his factory here. So
Oh,
it's kind of
amazing.
apt.
Okay. Mhm.
It's kind of apt that we've got some radio stations in there. So there's a few in there, and we actually,
Yeah.
off the back of that, we did in fact build a couple of apps for Chelmsford Community Radio and the hospital radio station as well. So there's you can download their apps from within our app, the Chelmsford Guide app. So it's like we're trying to make those connections, as it were. So that's kind of the. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot more features in there, but some of these are some of the ones that kind of, if you like,
Yeah.
drive it, and also the
Yeah.
activity within it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And
So it's a
yeah,
good way of aggregating, for example, shop local, you're aggregating in effect the e-commerce
yeah,
stores they already have, and you put
yeah,
it
yeah.
on the app. So it's another channel for promoting their products in their shops,
Yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, yeah, and it doesn't involve them having to change anything, So in other
Yeah.
words, we just embed it into the
Yeah.
app. So there's nothing, they don't have to do anything to change their,
Yeah.
their shop in any way. So
Yeah.
it's just there.
Mm.
It's just an access point, for it.
Access point, yeah, because some of the comments about app is, you don't want to have to duplicate the work done on the website and the
Yeah,
app as well. So if they already have an e-commerce shop on the website, then you simply just aggregate their website, or
absolutely.
if
Yeah.
there's a need for it, I suppose, would you build it natively for them as well if they ask you to build a native a shop
Sure. Yeah. 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 I mean, if
locally?
you click
Yeah.
on if you click on the next slide,
Uh-huh. Okay,
yeah, bring that
let's do that. Okay.
future feed. So one of the things we want to try and eventually get in here
Mm-hmm.
is food ordering, and that would be native. So, I won't go into the full details of it, the
Mm-hmm.
explanation, but what we'd like to do is we're starting to reach out to some local cafe, restaurants, takeaway type places. Um, we can build them effectively all the food ordering platform, which they then would then run, and then we'd again surface it in the app. It would then be if you like more native than just linking the thing we discussed before about Shopify. So we do that with food ordering. We'd
Mm-hmm.
like to build up, if you like, a food ordering section within the app. And then, but the same technology we use for the food ordering commerce platform, if you like, can also be used for non-food products. So clothes, jewelry, whatever, sort of thing, whatever other things. So if there's somebody out there who wants to get online, as it were, and maybe doesn't want to go down the expense of and complication, or they doesn't know anything about Shopify, etc. We can build that locally. So that again, that would then be we'd surface that in the Chelmsford Guide app for them to sell
Mm-hmm.
locally to people, and that'd be, obviously delivering. They'd have to organise the delivery, etc. Or it might be click and collect, that sort of thing. So we can
Mm-hmm.
do all those things.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of next phase in terms of like where do we go next, what do we do next, and
Mm-hmm.
make the app more, and we can, and then off the back of that, we don't mention it on here, but with that platform, that kind of food ordering or other kind of goods ordering, we can build in digital loyalty cards and things like that. So it gives people a reason for, again, coming back and using the app. It also gives people, those smaller businesses, access to being able to do that without having to invest a lot of money up front. So we can build something out for them, and then the app, the Chelmsford Guide, will be the access point, if you like, for it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So it's a great way for you to also promote what the apps can do, what the app
Mm,
platform can do as
yeah,
well to local
yeah,
business.
yeah. I mean, I mean, there's a part of this is to show the sort of things an app can do. So something like the Chelmsford Guide app, a community app like this, it has a lot of features, and if you're owning an app just for your own company, you wouldn't necessarily use all of those features. Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily put a
No.
radio
Hmm.
station in your app or whatever, that sort of thing, or even weather or whatever. But
Yeah.
you do those things. What we're trying to show is that these are the things you could have in your own app if that's what you wanted,
Hmm.
and it can be really cost effective,
Hmm.
um, because we are using a set of technologies that exist, and we are basically setting them up for you to then use for your. I mean, it will look different. It can be configured different. It can be,
Hmm.
as you well know, we can brand it, and the layouts can be different. So it can look very different from the Chelmsford Guide, but ultimately it's using the same underlying tech. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's a way of us doing it in a very
Hmm.
cost-effective way for businesses.
Yeah.
So the
Fantastic.
idea between,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, ultimately the idea between the guide was, look, if that's all, if a business, the only thing they ever do with me is list a business listing or open a food ordering store or whatever it is, then I'm fine with that. But if you want to go further, then we have the ability to go further with you, and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. So
Of
yeah,
course.
we kind of future features. We're thinking about doing a jobs board, so maybe local
Mhm.
companies or recruitment businesses could then have their own list jobs in there. Because I think again, at the back of the what's happened from the pandemic is that I think again it's just that being able to find local staff or people find looking for local jobs as well, that might be a useful thing for people to do. And we've thought about competitions. There's a few ideas like knocking around in our heads. um,
Mhm.
I mean, with an app and on a phone with QR codes, you could have almost a little go to a shop, scan a QR code, in a shop or restaurant or whatever, in a business, local
Yeah.
business, and that could create some points, or you could, like almost like treasure hunt type things. You could do things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many things you can do. Actually,
Yeah.
a little bit is reining in all the
Reining in
ideas.
and focusing on what you want to do.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
there's a game you can play, and some of our fellow licensees have created games as well using QR codes
yeah,
in places, and
yeah,
scanning QR codes to find the answers or find information as well. So with the previous LinkedIn Live I did, Renee, one of our colleagues, talked about using
yeah,
that
yeah.
QR codes, yeah, to play games. Okay, fantastic. Could you, sorry, Tim, did you want to talk about classifieds or?
No,
Yeah.
honestly, that was just another section that
Mm,
we've have the ability to have a classified section. So
yeah.
I just need to work out, if you like, the how how do we do that in a way that's safe and secure for people. So obviously people go on Facebook
Hmm.
Marketplace and they might sell something, but there's a massive legal organisation behind Facebook to make sure that if any that nothing untoward is happening. So I just we have the ability to do that at the moment. I just need to figure out whether that's something that
Hmm.
we would want to get involved with, or would it add any value or not. So it's one of those ideas that we could put in, and if it works we can continue with it. If it doesn't,
Hmm.
we can drop it again. So that allows us, doesn't it? I mean, as you well know, with
Yeah.
something like this, you can try things, and if it works, you carry on. If it doesn't work, you just
You just
change it.
take it
So
down, yeah. So
yeah,
just remind me, Tim, and also for the audience as well. So classifieds is different from the business listings, right? So is this
yeah, yeah.
a
It,
way for businesses to submit their own information?
so no, classifieds was just for people like, say you got something you want to sell individually. So like an old
I say,
an
okay.
armchair or something and that sort of thing. So it's that
Okay,
sort of thing,
okay.
like a bit like Facebook
Right.
Marketplace, where
Okay.
people.
I
I mean,
see. I see.
I guess
Okay.
business could also be on there, but it was more to thinking about that kind of.
Mm.
I've got something I want to sell, and then you kind
Hmm.
of do that sort of thing.
And they do it
That's why
themselves, exchange. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. So
I don't want to be in the middle of that transaction. You know, what I mean? It's just two people
no, no.
buying and selling something.
Yeah,
So
it's like a
that's what it would look.
next door app sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Okay, great, fantastic. So I have one question for you, Tim, if you
hmm,
don't mind. So can you talk us through the subscription model? The idea is to charge businesses and get a
sure.
sponsor, and it is, as I can see, you have a main sponsor for your app,
Yeah,
which is a local brand, local big brand, well-known brand, who's sponsoring your home screen, and also
yeah,
the business directory. You charge a subscription. Am I
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we went through a number of different thought processes about how to do this, and then we simplified it and said there'd be just one charging structure. So instead of having different
Hmm.
levels, we wanted the app to be as rich as possible. So we basically said, right, you pay and you'll get as much information in your listening as you want to put in there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we charge initially, if you were signing up, it'd be £1 for 3 months, and then if you're happy with that, it's £87 per annum to be in the listing. And so it's a very simple charging structure, and but we wanted to give people access to the app for, like I say, this 3 month period. And if for whatever reason they don't want to continue, then well, we just remove the listing. So
Hmm. Hmm.
so it's just
That's
that
very
really.
cost effective, isn't it? It's a very cost
Yeah.
effective way of getting involved in promoting their business. So what do they get for £87 per annum?
So they get, like I say, the full listing. So it'll be as much information as possible. They can be listed in two categories, and
Okay.
it'll be like as much. I mean, in the listing itself, in their listing, you can have graphics, all their contact details, some information about them, embed videos if they have them, link to their
Hmm.
YouTube channels if they have that sort of thing. So as much as they, I mean, it is kind of almost a mini website, if you like, within the app as well. So
It can be, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Hmm.
and we have. I mean, if they, so we've worked with Essex Wine School, for example, and they're in the WhatsApp What's On feature as well. So
Hmm.
they've got a
Hmm.
listing there because they do events.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
do wine tasting events. So they're in there, and it's just a matter of kind of being in there. And then what we're also using, and we haven't really touched on push notifications. Push notifications we send out on a regular basis about
Hmm.
what's happening,
Yeah.
and we intend to try and give more. We can't. I mean, we could. It depends how many people sign up, but it's like if you get, I
Hmm.
don't. We don't want to push notification every time someone signs up because then that might get a little bit busy. So we will look at whether we can kind of do some promotional stuff about individual companies that
Hmm.
come out. So we have done that, and so it's just a matter of keeping, if you like, keeping. We want to give as much value as possible, to be honest, in the end, because
Of
clearly
course, yeah.
what we want is people to continue using and downloading the app, and we want the business to
Hmm.
continue listing in there, and we also want to them to say that they're in the app as well. So they want to,
Hmm.
where can you find us? We want people to say we're in the Chelmsford Guide. So
Yeah.
it's we're trying to build up a mechanism for, if you like, cross promotion. It's kind of a cross promotional way, of like saying, well, okay, if you want to find us, we're in the Chelmsford Guide.
Hmm.
And again, we will try and do everything we can to promote local businesses. It's the driver, if you like, for this.
That's the key word here, local.
Yeah,
So you're promoting local. So you mentioned so for you give them a mini website, so to speak, a page with all the
yeah,
information for £87, and you also mentioned events as well. So with the wine company, they
yeah,
have listing. You also post your events there. People can go in and buy tickets, and also, as you said, that's really a full time job, isn't it? Posting all these events for them,
yeah,
it's a lot of work, and but it's useful information for local residents. And also you're thinking about push notifications as an added
yeah,
service, an add-on service as well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's quite a lot of
yeah,
stuff that you would do for local businesses there.
yeah, yeah. Like I said before, it's
Mm.
the key thing is to give as much value as possible, because don't get me wrong. I mean, we need to finance this, if you like, this work. But it's not, the idea really is to try and generate. Well, it's two sides. One is to, like I say, promote local business, but also all that community stuff we talked about. Like say,
Yeah.
like local charities, and when the Chelmsford Festivals on, and all that kind of stuff. So that people go. The number of times you kind of. I
Yeah.
mean, actually, by doing this process, looking at what's on for each, I've suddenly realised how much does go on around here, which you don't hear about.
We don't
And
hear about. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so because whatever the channel is they're using, you don't consume that channel or whatever it
Exactly.
is. So,
It's a
so
bit of a problem finding information. I think it's the same with us here as well. If you want to find information about food festival, then you got to go on the food festival website. If you want to find out information about the council, you got to go on council website. It's not aggregated in a
hmm,
useful fashion. There's no
yeah, yeah.
one space or one place where you can access all the local useful information. It's just a list of different sites that
Yeah,
you
and
have to
sometimes you
go and
don't know
find
what
information.
yeah, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know, for example, that Chelmsford Festival is coming, then you wouldn't know.
You're
So
not going to be there, yeah.
yeah, just but hopefully by having it on the app, for example, and doing push notifications about it, then
Yeah.
people go, oh, and
Mm.
whether they attend or buy tickets for all the events, that's another step. I
Yeah.
can't drive. I can't control that, but
Mm.
but it is literally knowing that it's on, that it's there, and then what's happening, etc. So
Yep.
it is
Yep.
trying. It's a big. I mean, it's a big thing. It's become quite big in terms of like the amount of information in there, and you've got to try and figure out what's the best way. Because otherwise, I think if you have, I mean, in the end, if it becomes too busy, then it becomes it becomes then a problem in itself. Like people finding the stuff within the app as well becomes a bit of a problem. So we've
Mm.
got to be kind
Mhm.
of mindful of that. That the way in which the
Mhm.
app works and is structured. We may have
Yeah.
to redesign it. We may, 6 months, a year's time, we might have to completely redesign the front end and make it may feel and look differently because it's no change the way in which it's used. So
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
it's a continuous improvement process, I guess we'd like
Yeah,
to try and
it's
do.
always
So
evolving. Yeah, but that's really
mm,
exciting. Okay, I think that's it from us.
thank
Unless
you.
there's something else you'd like to add, Tim.
I'll probably think of it after the call, but I
After the call.
can't.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if anyone wants to get a hold of you or reach out to you or download the app, or what's the best way to reach out to you?
I mean, if you search the Chelmsford Guide online
Hmm.
in a browser, it should come up. We've done some work on that, especially if you're in Chelmsford, it will definitely come up. And
Hmm.
obviously, in the app stores, you can
Yeah.
do a search for the Chelmsford Guide, and you'll find it. So
Hmm.
we have our website is chelmsford.guide, just a
Hmm.
www.chelmsford.guide, and that on there you get a link to download it, etc. So it's yeah, it's I'd like it'd be nice for people to if people could just try it and give us some
Try
feedback.
it, yeah. If
We're
we'll
more
pop
than
the
happy for
link in the
some.
chat after
Okay,
this, yeah, all the links in the chat so people can download and try it out for themselves. Even though they're not necessarily from Chelmsford, it would be quite
no,
interesting for them to have a look as
no.
well.
I mean, I think we both in this position. We'd I'd like to be able to build these for other places. I mean, I do in fact have another live one in another town,
Hmm.
um, and the idea really is to try and make them fundamental that we want them to be, if you like, part of a series of local guides, but locally managed by someone in that area. So in other words,
Hmm. Hmm.
for example, I wouldn't necessarily build one for Newcastle because I don't live there.
Yeah.
So and I'd rather keep, someone was in a different area wanted to have this sort of thing for them, and then they would decide which features they want in there. So it wouldn't be cookie cooker, like it wouldn't say, oh, there's
A
that's exactly
cookie
the same as
cutter
the
type
Chelsea
app.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it looks exactly the same except it's got a different brand on it.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
literally be whatever that local area, because as you were aware, we can configure and put different features in there. We can have the layouts can be different. So in the end, it could look very, very different for a
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
area because it might be that's what works for them. It might,
Yeah.
even I mean, we're a relatively big place, 120,000 people live here, but it can work very much for a much smaller place.
Hmm.
Even
Hmm.
down to a village if you really, really wanted it, it could be something like that. So it is a very, like I say, it's trying to make something that's or trying to prove the point that we can do these things, and you could also have your own one if you like,
Yep.
and
Definitely.
but
Definitely.
not owned by us, but owned by you.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Absolutely. Thanks very much, Tim. So
Thank you,
we're going to
Joyce.
say goodbye now. And if you hang in there, I'm just going to go offline.
Sure.